BJ, when you look at leadership across engineering and construction teams today, what are some of the common gaps that you're seeing in leadership in our industry?
The ability to adapt and innovate, whether that's AI or other technology. Every time you introduce another thing to folks that are trying to execute a project, even though it could be the best new whiz-bang thing, I feel like our industry is very resistant to change. I used to joke that AEC was archaic, expensive, and cumbersome. It's archaic because you're not changing the math problems of engineering equations. They are.
What are the biggest leadership gaps holding architecture, engineering, and construction teams back today? And why do so many firms struggle to address them even when the challenges are clear? In an industry built on precision and performance, leadership is often the difference between projects that simply get delivered and those that are truly successful. In today's episode, I'm joined by BJ Kraemer, President and CEO of MCFA and the host of Leadership Blueprints. He's a West Point graduate, a combat veteran, and founder of the Friendly Strife Foundation. BJ always brings such a unique perspective on leadership shaped by his military experience and his experience in the AEC world. And we're going to get into some stuff today that is kind of next level leadership and how to build leaders in your organization and how to build your leadership mindset. Now, before we jump in with BJ, I do want to tell you a little bit about AEC PM Connect, a series of in-person events that we've created at EMI for AEC project managers and the leaders who develop them. If you want to stay on top of PM trends, elevate your team, and deliver strong project results, these full-day events are built for you. So you can learn more at aecpmconnect.com. I'm your host, Anthony Pisano, and this is the AEC Leadership Podcast. All right, now I'd like to welcome my guest onto the show for today. BJ Kraemer is the president and CEO of MCFA and the host of Leadership Blueprints. BJ, welcome to the AEC Leadership Podcast, or maybe I should say welcome back. How are you?
Good to be back, Anthony. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, I'm excited to have BJ back. He's been on the show before. He's growing a company, so he's kind of in leadership mode, real time, if you will. He's also a West Point graduate and combat veteran. I always like to thank him for his service to our country, which I'm very grateful for. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it,
BJ.
brother. Thank you.
And let's get started by having you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're at in your career today and, you know, how your journey has evolved into a lot of leadership in what you do. Take us through your career give us the cliff notes if you can.
Yeah, it's so as you mentioned, West Point grad. I graduated in 2004 during a time of combat operations in Iraq. So kind of quickly saw the realities of war, but right out of my first operational assignment, went to grad school, got a utilization assignment with the Corps of Engineers, and that really opened up my career to the AEC industry. So hard for me to believe that it's been almost a 20-year career now in the AEC on both the public side and the private side. So first project out of grad school, I was like the third or fourth person on site. I grew into a resident engineer position for a $2 billion research and development campus that the Army was building. And that really opened up the doors to everything I know about the AEC today and really set the foundation for the company that we're growing here at MCFA. Fast forward, I joined MCFA in 2012. I bought the majority ownership in 2019, and we've grown from about 15 employees back then to now 70 today. Very intentionally, and hopefully we get into this, around empowering a leadership mindset at the project manager level. And we can get into what that means. But to me, it's about pulling together all of the pieces that I think it takes to lead in our industry, which is understanding the client and the business development side of it, understanding the technical delivery side of it, having the business acumen, and then having the people leadership skills, because professional services, whatever you want to call it, we end up selling people's time to solve problems and hopefully create value. And I think being able to teach, mentor, coach, and develop other humans, other professionals is key to continuing growing our firm.
Yeah, and we talk a lot of the same language in our day-to-days, so I'm excited to kinda talk shop a little bit here with BJ about leadership in projects and beyond. And, one of the things that kinda reminded me to kinda have him on again is he puts out an awesome kinda newsletter every Friday that I really like and enjoy reading, and I'll let him tell you about that at the end of today, so maybe you could check it out. But that's been, really a good reminder. He puts out really good reminders every week about the leadership journey, which I appreciate. So, BJ, let's start by talking a little bit about your experience as a West Point graduate and a combat veteran and how that has kind of influenced the way you lead teams in the AEC industry. Tell us about the connection or how it's helped you.
I it's funny, I had a classmate of mine posted something about our plebe year today on LinkedIn. So without knowing it, you are forced into this leadership development ecosystem. And I think what West Point gets right, and when you're there, you're talking about all the things that they're getting wrong. But what they get very, very right, the further away I get from there, is they do two things. They make you think that everything that's going on in your life is very, very high stakes.
Hmm.
And it feels like that when you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, you can't get bad grades. You have to do everything that they're asking you to do. You're receiving all of this new culture, new identity, new education in this elite institution with a very competitive peer group, and everything feels high stakes. I got to get good grades. I got to make it to PT. I got to do good on my PT test. I've got to understand all of my military knowledge. I have to memorize my plebe. It's just an overwhelming environment, and it feels like you cannot fail. Like, I can't screw any of this up, or I'll be out of here. But the truth is, wrapped around this intense culture is actually a very safe place for you to fail.
Hmm.
Nobody wants you to drop out of there. Nobody wants you to leave there. And people do end up dropping out. People do end up quitting that aren't right. And people do end up getting kicked out for either drastic academic, honor, or character violations. But it's actually a safe place for you to fail, because in all of that high stress stuff, none of it actually matters a lot. It's the compounding effect that you are able to slowly figure out how to balance a whole bunch of demands on you and still figure out how to perform. And it's the idea of constantly going through hard things that makes you capable of doing hard things. So the further I get away from it, the more I realize, like, holy cow, you knew you were going to a leadership development institution, but you didn't realize how much you were being developed compared to, let's just say, our peer group. So the more I connect 20 years post-graduation with my classmates, it's unique to see how much we identify with each other's pathways and how much we appreciate how hard it was and what we had to go through, because I do think it set us on a different trajectory for a leadership development career. So let me go back to what you asked, though, because I think I went on a tangent.
No, I mean, that was helpful, but yeah, tying it back to what you're doing today, but it sounds like that's a big piece of it.
I think so it prepares you. You graduate and you're a platoon leader in the United States Army. What does being a platoon leader mean? It means at 22 years old, I was responsible to take 30 men ages 18 to 40 under my leadership into combat, where stakes are very real and it is not a safe place to fail. Bad guys are trying to hurt us, and my job was to execute the mission while doing my very best to bring everybody home. So it prepared us for that.
Hmm.
And I think after that, you realize two things. One, you're never going to have something this hard or this where the stakes are this high again in your life. And two, leadership is about taking care of others. Plain and simple. Can you accomplish the mission while taking care of other people? And I think my leadership development journey has been about balancing those two things in different environments. I've been on boards, I've been athletic coaches, I'm a father, I've been a project manager at the project leadership level, I've been a division, business unit leader, I'm the CEO of a company. Everything is about, can we accomplish the goal and develop and bring people with us while we do it?
Yeah, I love that because leadership is when someone can simplify leadership down to a couple of core things, I think that's very valuable because it becomes this thing where there's a million books on leadership, a million videos you can watch all day long. And I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff in there, but at the end of the day, like you're saying, you got to keep it simple, right? Achieve the mission, achieve your goal, and develop and bring your people along in the process, which I think is great. And to your West Point experience, I actually attended the Thayer Leadership Program last
Yeah.
year at West Point, which was great. I really enjoyed it. And what you
Who'd
said,
you go through it with?
there was several different generals that I can't recall right now, but one thing I do recall very vividly was one of the, I don't know if what level he was, but from the Black Hawk Down mission, who was actually there, came
Yeah.
and spoke to us and took us through it. He showed some clips from the movie. But the point I took away, the reason I went to it in the first place was
Was
because
it
of
Colonel
exactly,
Steele?
I think that was,
Bald guy?
I believe that was him who visited with us.
Okay.
And the reason I went to it in the first place is exactly what you said, is that there really is no higher stakes than that kind of leadership, right? Like what you said, it's like it's live or die. You got people that you're responsible for their lives. And so my thought process was that if you can learn from people that have been in that situation, that's got to be really powerful, right? And some of the stuff and some of the stories that they shared were very powerful. But going back to your experience at West Point, we spent about a week there and we walked around campus and stuff, and you could really see how regimented the cadets were, right? In terms of running together, dressed the same way, go to flag football, set it up, everybody breaks it down. And it really makes sense to what you're saying, is that they're making you feel like every single thing matters, because when you graduate and you get shipped out, every single thing does matter. So they're
Right.
they're trying to replicate, like, the fiercest of situations. So I can only imagine like how much like that can help you, like you're saying, now when you're trying to achieve your goals, when you're trying to develop your people, you've got that experience behind you. So I think that's awesome. So BJ, when you look at leadership across engineering and construction teams today, what are some of the common gaps that you're seeing in leadership in our industry?
I think, well, let me start with the one that feels like it's the most pervasive and in our face right now is the ability to adapt and innovate, whether that's AI or other technology. Every time you introduce another thing to folks that are trying to execute a project, even though it could be the best new whiz bang thing, I feel like our industry is very resistant to change. It's I used to joke that AEC was archaic, expensive, and cumbersome. It, it's archaic because, I mean, you're not changing the math problems of engineering equations. They are what they are, and they always will be. And then second, we're risk averse because most of our clients, and even the professional obligation is the public safety. So now you want me to do something better, smarter, faster, and trust it immediately. By nature, our industry is not going to adopt it quickly. And then it changes. By the time we get bought into adopting it, it changes and there's something new.
Yeah.
So, I finally figure out how to use ChatGPT for the couple of things I want to use, and everybody's telling me move to Grok or Claude
Well,
or
yeah.
it. It's just there's so much. So I would say a leadership challenge is, how do you be innovative? How do you adapt? How do you be nimble to the things that will move our industry forward while also being compassionate to the professional body of people we have and their ability to digest change.
Huh.
That's number one. Number two is brain drain. I just got off the phone with one of my most senior engineers, and I tell him all the time, my biggest fear is him not just leaving the company, leaving the industry,
Yeah.
because he has so much knowledge. And I don't know if it's that I don't know. I haven't put a lot of thought into this. I know that there was a point in time where it was like when I was at the Corps of Engineers, there was something like 80% of the Corps of Engineers employee base was retirement eligible.
Okay.
And they were just kind of, because of economic slips, instead of retiring at 60, they retired at 68. They stayed in grade longer. So they continued to get all of these leadership lessons from where they were sitting, but that next group might not have gotten all of the experience that should have naturally been passed down. So I think that there is a level, and I just talked with Milo Reverso, who's the former CEO of STV, and he thinks that, one, the amount of leadership we need in our industry does not exist because we are taking on way more complex and way bigger programs than we ever had before. And I look back, the research and development, $2 billion research and development campus I was building, like at the time, the number of people that were like, you have no idea how lucky you are to be on such a huge project at such a young age. $2 billion projects don't, they only come around once in a lifetime. We've got billion-dollar programs going on. You can't go 100 miles without running into $100 billion construction projects
Right.
in our region. And that's probably true across the country between data centers and pharma, and you name it. There's bridges and infrastructure and highway widenings. There's just so much going on, but the level of complexity of that, the number of stakeholders in that, the number of internal and external stakeholders, the ability to communicate, and then in all of that, stay on top of technology that's supposed to be trying to make us more efficient. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's a lot. And in the AEC industry, skilled project managers are the backbone of success. EMI's AEC PM certification offers tailored training, ongoing support, and exclusive access to premium content that keeps your team sharp and effective. From foundational training to advanced leadership tools, set your team apart with certified growth. Learn more at aecpm.com. That's aecpm.com. That's why, if we go back to what you said a few minutes ago about the role of a leader to achieve your goal and develop your people in the process, I feel like when you have kind of a mission even statement like that, it can make some of these things easier because you can look at AI and say, okay, how can we use AI but still do this?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the way I try to think of things. Like, if we have an overarching goal, you might throw different variables into the equation, but we still know where we want to go. So
Correct.
if AI is going to help us, which one's going to help us? How can we learn it? How can we start using it to make this better? If it's not going to make it better faster, then it's a waste, right? Potentially. Like, I'm not saying AI is a waste, but I'm saying finding the right thing that helps you achieve the mission.
For our mission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What is it? What is it we are trying to accomplish?
Exactly.
What problem are we trying to solve?
Exactly. And so having that,
Yeah.
I think, to ground you is really important. And I had a really good conversation recently with Kevin Haney, who's the CEO of Collier's Engineering and Design. And I was asking him their philosophy on AI, 3,000 person AE firm, growing, acquiring companies. And his was very good. He said, listen, there are experts out there in AI, like, for example, Bentley, right? We're using their programs. They're keeping up with AI. So if we're using their programs, then we can let them worry about the AI and we can do like what we're doing type of thing, right? Which was also a great philosophy, is like, getting the right people to help you so that you're not bogged down trying to learn a bunch of stuff when you can focus on what you could drive value with. So I think that's important, having that mission, like you said, having a clear goal. And I think the other thing that you said is true, in that we just lack right now, I think, leadership in this industry, or enough leadership, because the programs, like Milo suggests, I think he's right, is they're becoming so complex, right? There's so many moving parts right now, and everything is moving so fast that there's, on leaders and project managers, there's just so much pressure put on them and so many things that they're juggling, which is why, in my opinion, leadership development is just as important as it's ever been, because the companies that have those leaders, and to your point about your team member, the leaders that are going to stay, right, and grow in their organizations, those are going to be the companies that are successful long term.
I agree. I want to make this point on leadership. When you come out of the military, there's not a soldier in the military that doesn't think they're a leader.
Wow, that's powerful.
From the team leader who might be responsible for one other or two other people, to the squad leader who has two team leaders, to the platoon leader that has four squad leaders, to the company commander who has four platoon leaders, to the battalion commander that has 3 to 7 company commanders, to the brigade command. Every one of those levels, it's just a higher echelon of leadership. But go back to where I started, the team leader, who is a 20-year-old, E3, E4, they're a leader.
Yeah.
So that is something in a technical field like engineering, architecture, construction. We tend to think like you're the doer and they're the leaders. It's like, no. We have to empower a leadership mindset at every level. And if we do that, then we will match career pathways to the largest programs. So I think that everybody listening to this, whether you're a sole proprietor, whether you're a junior employee or the CEO of Colliers, you have to empower a leadership mindset into our industry.
Yep.
If we think that all we are technicians, AI is coming for your job. I don't know when. There is going to be some part of our industry that is going to be commoditized because large language models and all of that is going to figure out how to commoditize what it needs to commoditize. It will never be the risk manager, the risk mitigator, the risk communicator, the stakeholder engager, the human account element that a leader can be. So I think it's good job security, it's good business, and it's just the right thing to do is to start training people on leadership.
Yeah. And I love what you said about the example of the Army, because that's a mindset, right? People know that they're leaders. Be 20 years old, they could be 40 years old. It doesn't matter.
Totally.
They have that mindset. And once they have that mindset, the opportunities are really limitless at that point, right? That's kind of the hardest part.
I believe so.
Yeah. So that's a good example. So I want to talk to you a little bit about resiliency. I'm sure it's something that you had to deal with in your experience at West Point, and I'm sure in business. We live in this world today. We just talked about the complexity of our projects. And basically what that means is every project manager is going to create a project plan that's not going to go according to plan. We know that.
Yep.
Because there's just too many variables in today's industry. There's too many changes, things happen. And so, how can you build resiliency within teams, within leaders in an organization so that your team can perform through the ups and downs, which we know we're going to go through in our industry, really in life in general?
So let's go back to my idea that West Point, despite all of the stakes feeling really, really high, it was a safe place to fail. You cannot develop leaders if they feel like any screw up is the end of their career. You have to microdose risk at the appropriate level, which is why you have to empower a leadership mindset at the lowest level, because there are things that should feel really, really high stakes to my 20-year-old or my 23-year-old right out of engineering that they do not want to screw up. And they feel like if they screw up, it's the end of their career. And their leader needs to know if they screw up, it's a rounding error on the project.
Right.
There's very little true risk to the organization or to the mission at that level. So you have to microdose risk at the appropriate levels. And I think that's the hardest thing that our industry is not good at, is this combination of our leadership development model is actually a sink or swim model. It's like, well, you either showed it to me or you didn't. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's like, oh, you got lucky on the project that more things went right than wrong and you were just in the right seat, and therefore you look like you were really good at what you're doing. It may not have been any intentional leadership development model. anybody who grows up in an organization, and the construction industry is notorious for, kind of tough guy and bang my chest and, yell real loud and whoever's the loudest is right and they're the boss and that kind of BS. If you can't create an organization that systematically reinforces the things that need to go right and the things that people need to be aware of when it comes to managing risk, because I think that's, resilience is when shit goes wrong, how do we respond?
Right.
And what you want people to do is just like in war, when shit goes wrong, we respond just how we were trained to respond.
Yeah. Preparation.
This is our job.
Yeah.
Exactly how we were trained to respond. If at the individual level, I say, well, I have not been trained for this.
Right.
And all I have are my people, my business people are yelling at me to not lose money. And my client is yelling at me to don't screw it up. And my subs are yelling at me. I'm going to have a very hard time leading through that if I don't feel like I have any safety net around me or anybody that I'm on the same team with. So I think the short answer is you have to introduce people to the appropriate level of risk so that they slowly kind of get inoculated with the incremental stress that comes at each new level of responsibility. When you run $1 million project, you might have $100,000 of tolerance in your risk. At 10 million, it might be $1 million. Like, you're managing a higher band of risk. When you're a sole performer, like, was I fully utilized this week? Was I fully productive this week? And I think I may be rambling, but I think it's really about how do you slowly step up people's ability to be responsible and accountable for everything that's going on.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think this is a very difficult thing for leaders to do because on one hand, you want someone to do great work and be accountable for their work, but at the same time, you don't want them to feel like if they screw one little thing up, they're out of the company, right?
Correct.
So there's like a really fine line there, I think, as a leader, like you're saying, to maybe give them these micro doses of feedback, right? Build their confidence, also hold them accountable when you need to, and have that healthy relationship where you could say, hey, listen, man, we're all going to make mistakes, right? We don't want to make too many mistakes. We want to be able to do things right and not make the same mistake over and over, but we're here to help you and guide you through it, especially early on in your career. So I think developing that culture of like feedback, which was what we try to do at EMI,
Yeah.
and we normalize it. So we're not only giving you feedback when you mess up, right? We're giving you feedback when you do something right. We're giving you feedback when you could do something better. And that just makes people feel like, oh, I'm in an atmosphere where I'm going to grow and I'm going to get the feedback. And sometimes it'll be good and sometimes it won't, but I'm on the right path here, so to speak.
I don't know if we talked about this before, but in the military, you have after action review.
Right. I learned that
Everything. Did you?
Yeah. They taught us that. Yeah.
There's two key parts to this. So an after action review after every mission, training mission, real mission, it could be a 1 hour education that you do an AAR with the instructor, like what went right, what didn't.
Right.
But in a real mission or a training mission, then the most important thing is whoever's in charge takes the rank off. And it's no rank.
Yep.
It's just what went right, what went wrong.
Yep.
It's not about blame. It's about getting better. And let me go back to where we started, which is like we're in an industry where nobody wants to ever be wrong. We have public safety at the core of what we're doing. So I have been around engineers, I've been around accountants, I've been around attorneys where it's like they will never, ever, ever admit that they were wrong. Because if they were wrong, then they really did something. Like their entire career has been developing them to, no, don't say you were wrong. You did what you thought was best. And there's a lot of nuance to this conversation, but like you have to find a way to break that culture of, hey, we're a learning organization. We're a developing organization. And that's why I said, like, there are real stakes to decisions that we make. But I have 70 employees relying on me to make good decisions for how we're growing this business and where we're taking this business. Like, those are 70 families that I feel a high level responsibility for. I also remind them they individually have a high level responsibility back to the team to raise their hand if something we're asking them to do doesn't make sense, or to ask for help, or, hey, I don't know that I'm the smartest person on this thing. Could I be connected with somebody who's done this before? It goes both ways, but leadership is about making it an organizational norm to be developing at all times.
Yeah, I love that. I think, again, having some of those overarching ideas that you can teach people or set the mindset with is very valuable for people, because I think leadership can become very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Which kind of is the next thing I want to talk a little bit. It was kind of this connection between like mental health and leadership effectiveness in these high pressure environments. I mean, we do a lot of custom like PM development programs for companies,
Yeah.
and we interview project managers. And what they say to us all the time is, there's nothing else I can take on here, right? Like, I'm maxed out. Like, they want us to get better at this, do better projects, do this. And they're like, we can't. We have like 30 projects. And so, I'm just wanted to get your take on, we're kind of taxing people at this point with a lot of complex projects. How can we ensure that people are able to, have some space in their brains so that they can do things, have some peace, have some mental health while we're pushing them on complex projects and leadership?
Yeah. This is a hard one. There's two things that I think you can do. First is, when you're at that level of PM, you are where the rubber meets the road, and your job is very hard. Like, that's the reality. You are in a demanding career field, and there's a lot of demanding career fields. So I recognize, because I've been the PM, feeling like there is no way I can get all of the shit done that I feel like I need to be good at my job. So you do have to triage a little bit, and you have to triage in whatever way you feel best. I was always trying to renegotiate commitments and triage emergencies based on client personalities. But the truth is, like, much of that is about how you prepare yourself outside of the office.
Mhm.
Are your weekends staying up till 2:00 in the morning and kind of burning it at both ends and wearing yourself out? Or are you catching up on sleep and kind of organizing your week? And I'll use getting to church. I know that the weeks that I have a rejuvenating weekend, which may include grabbing 4 hours in the office in between kids' sports games to feel like I caught up on something. Are you prioritizing that stuff, or are you making that somebody else's problem? Or are you just accepting that as a problem? So I say routine is the number one thing that you have to be able to do. And I'll actually send you, I've got this 7 habits of highly effective project leaders.
Oh, cool.
And routine to me is critical. You have to have a weekly cadence. You have to have a daily cadence. You have to have a morning startup routine, like when you wake up, and the miracle morning. I give it to everybody. Yeah, I give that to everybody, because I think I am somebody that when stress gets too high, I do not handle it well.
Yeah.
I think I have a very high tolerance, but once it's overloaded, it breaks you.
Yeah.
And then I'm combat ineffective. So I am a very big believer. As soon as my life starts feeling like overstressed, I go back to routine. It's like, did I do the miracle morning? And the answer is like, no. I had a bad week. I threw the miracle morning out. I thought sleeping in 15 more minutes was better than reading for 10 minutes, or whatever it is. It's
right.
like, or I didn't get my workout in. So to me, that's one piece of the problem. And that is the extreme ownership mindset. It's like, what control the controllables.
Yeah. And by the way, just want to say for listeners, I actually interviewed Hal Elrod on the
Did
podcast.
you?
So I'll share that in the link for this because his Miracle Morning, if you're not familiar, is a really great process that you can use every morning to get yourself going. It's like very step through with different things to do, reading, working out, etc. So I just want to mention that, but we'll link to that because it is amazing. It's life changing.
I think everybody listening, you should try it for 30 days and see if you're a better person for it.
Absolutely.
So that's the individual level responsibility. The flip side of this is the industry. We have this expectation of people to be. I build projects when we put the level of effort. Everybody uses 19, 20 hours for an FTE or 40 hours a week. And we know that the client demands are around the clock because of technology and because when I send the 77th email of the day, I feel like I did a little bit more than the other guy. There is this performance and demand that goes on in our industry. And I don't know the answer to it. Is it that we need to say, you know what, every time I price a PM, I'm actually going to price 1.5 PMs because I know that it's going to be more than one person's job.
Right. You need margin there.
Every time we price something as 20 hours, person's like, what do they think I am? A full-time consultant to them? And the problem with that is, this is where we get squeezed, is businesses are getting squeezed between client expectations and employee health.
Right.
And I don't know the answer to it. The answer may be, hey, PMs, keep growing yourself so that, there's a saying in the Army, there's a reason company command only lasts 2 to 3 years because it is that taxing on you. Then you go and you might get a staff job. You might get a educational assignment. And then before you go back into command. So command in the military, I think, is a lot like project management, program management in our industry. It's like you're signing up for a very demanding period of time.
Right.
You got to find ways to recover before and after.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, a couple things that I'll say, and I agree, it's hard to find answers to this, but number one, I think what BJ talked about with routine and what you do outside of work, I think that's really important. A couple of years ago, I stopped, or at least minimized working on the weekends, and I got really involved with my church. We have a men's group, and now these are friends. We hang out, and it's just a life-changing experience, and it kind of brings another dimension to life, if you will, right? So, you have your family, you have work, you need other social outlets. I think that's really important, and it can help you through stress and stuff like that. And then I think the other thing maybe is we talked a little bit about AI. This may be the opportunity where AI can maybe help a leader to do things that took 20 hours, take 15 hours or take 17 hours in a week, right? And if that picks you up 3 hours, that potentially could help give you a little bit more margin, a little bit more headspace, because you're able to, again, use AI to help you with some things, especially administrative related things. I think it can be very helpful. So there really is no right answer to this. BJ's right. It's going to be one of those jobs. We're talking about how complex our projects are. So project management is going to be stressful in ways, for sure.
Yeah.
But anything that you can find either outside of work or inside work in terms of tools and help, I think that will at least make it easier for you. Not easy, but easier than what some of you deal with. And hopefully that can be helpful for you.
Yeah.
All right, BJ, I got my final question for you. For those kind of leaders in the industry that are listening today and they're thinking about leadership development in their organization for their teams, what can they do to ensure that their leadership development efforts are impactful and they will transfer back to the job for their leaders?
I think you have to figure out what outcome are you looking for the business and what outcome are you looking for the individual, and then be very intentional about designing or engaging a vendor to help you align those two objectives. In mine, I want PMs to be able to grow into business unit leaders. I will not consider I look at the blueprint of my career, and I know that, and not everybody goes to West Point and had that experience. Not everybody goes to combat and had that experience. I had a bunch of these unique experiences and a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit inside of me that allowed me to take the path I did. But what I want to do is to normalize that path for people. So I'm always trying to figure out, how do I teach people to do what I did, but make it easier, safer, faster for them to do it. I know how much risk I took on. I know how much stress I took on. I know how much stress I was bringing home to my family. I don't want people to have to do that, but I want to show people pathways to become business leaders inside of our company and inside of the architect engineering industry. The reason I want to grow goes back to that idea that, like, I don't want project managers to feel like, oh my God, I've signed up to be Sisyphus and I'm going to roll the project management rock up the hill.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's just going to roll back down on me. And at the end of the year, it's going to roll back down. I want them to feel like, I got to the top of the hill. I let that one go over. I got 3 guys coming behind me that I'm going to cheer. And I'm looking at the next hill in front of me and figuring out which way I'm going to take it. So to me, first is make the decision that you have to invest in some sort of intentional training, and make sure that that investment is aligned with some kind of outcomes. And those outcomes should be both business outcomes, which, it's going to increase your reputation. It's going to increase margin. It's going to increase growth. But it also has to be, what's in it for me? The project manager that's sitting in on these trainings, why am I coming to this? Right. Why is this good for me? And I think that is the, I say unspoken, but it's my spoken contract to our employees, is that the growth of the company and the growth of the individual have to be a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
I'm going to work hard to make our company as good as it can be and to grow it so that we grow opportunities for you. My ask is that you work as hard as you can be to stretch yourself to become the professional you say you want to be. And everybody's going to define their own success differently. My number one is I will feel successful when I've put 10, 15, 20 other, BJ Kraemer project managers into a trajectory to be business unit leaders.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. And what I like about that answer is that it goes back to what you said earlier in achieve the mission, build up my people, right? The mission being, what are the business objectives of the program, and the people being, what are the people objectives of the program, meaning how am I going to, build them up? So again, it's very lined up with that overarching kind of goal that you had in the beginning, which is why I think you need to have some kind of mindset like that helps you make decisions, right? Whether it's training or any other decisions. And one thing that you reminded me of, and I'll just wrap up with this, is I interviewed a guy once who, talking about leadership, and he led a missionary trip to another country to help build a church. Their goal was to build this church. And he had like maybe 40, 50 men there that were volunteering in this mission trip, and they were building up the church. And he said he had like this kind of like epiphany when he was there, that he wasn't using the men to build the church. He was using the church to build the men. Right. And that's like, you reminded me of that, because what you were saying is like, the programs are going to help us grow the company, but they also have to grow the people, right? That are through them, and allow them to have success at home and success at work. And that's really like a win-win kind of relationship. So listen, lots of good stuff. I mean, BJ and I could sit here and talk for 16 more hours. I don't think everyone wants to listen to us for that long. But BJ, before I let you go, tell people where they can find you. And I love your newsletter. I don't know if there's a way they can get it, but it's great on Friday.
We will put it in on, thank you for that. The quick story there is, during COVID, we couldn't, I started out sending it to employees, and then somebody forwarded it to a client. They said, hey, can I get on your list? And then we started building this list. So I appreciate it. The very first quote was, optimism as a force multiplier, Colin Powell.
That's great.
So I will put a link in the show notes to our MailChimp. But so it's Leadership Blueprints podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn, and we're actually on YouTube now. So
you're everywhere.
Despite the fact I have a face for radio, we're on YouTube.
Well, BJ, thank you so much for, again, coming on the Leadership Podcast and spending some time with us here. It's always awesome talking with you about leadership, and I'm looking forward to keeping the conversation going. I'm going to be on BJ's podcast as well, and we're going to be sharing that online too, so you'll see us in a couple different conversations.
Awesome.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with BJ. If you did, please subscribe to our channel here. We put out videos like this on a regular basis to help AEC professionals become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.